Thank you, Sam. Now, I hope that all of you have in front of you not only the slide presentation, but you have the outline and that you have the sample GFE and the HUD-1, because I will be referring to all of them. So kind of have them ready there so you don't get the same headache and wad things up like this poor person on the screen's doing. And for those of you who are as inquisitive as Sam, I got this off of clip art, so I don't know if that really is the same person we've all been talking about all week. So let's just go on from there. What we're going to do today is that we're going to go over the GFE and the HUD-1 from simultaneously a couple of different directions. So I hope I don't scare you too much, but it's easier if we go through this. And for whether you're an auditor, as an auditor, I'll be explaining to you what you need to look at to verify that the information on the good faith and the HUD-1 that you have there are correct. And for those of you who are preparing this or in some other area of doc prep or just loan documentation, that we'll be explaining to you where you need to be getting this and making certain that this is correct. Because none of this just comes out of the blue. They all have a source. And remember that, if either, heaven forbid, you should have to defend this in a court of law or to your examiners or your auditors or the consumer, if they're savvy enough to ask those questions, you want to be able to know what this is and where it came from. So let's get started. Let's get on there and let's talk first about that good faith estimate, because a good faith estimate really, its true purpose has not changed and hopefully won't change that much. The true purpose of this is found in the name. Our good faith estimate means our best guess based on the facts that we had in hand at the time we prepared this document. And so in order to do that, or for those of us who are auditors to verify what's happened, that these are correct, we need to know the source of these. Everything has a source document. So to get this, we're going to go first talking through each one. What are we looking for? And then where do we find this information? And so we're always going to look first, obviously, at lien position. Now, you might say, well, what difference does that make? Well, lien position does affect a good number of fees, whether it's a first or subordinate. So there's some fees that aren't charged in a subordinate. There's things such as some prepaid items, things that have been previously purchased. Let's say my flood insurance, my hazard insurance, an appraisal, that type of thing, that we need to know the lien position so we know if there's already been a loan on this. We can check on that. So we're going to look for that. We need to look for a purpose. I mean, what's the purpose of this loan? So this does influence some types of fees that are required, for example, particularly under the HUD FAQs, that they specifically state that if this is for a purchase money loan, that we always have to disclose the owner's title insurance premium, even if we have reason to believe that they're not going to want that. You still have to disclose it on the GFE because that's what it says in the FAQs. Now, do me a favor. As you're going along and you're thinking of questions, please go ahead and submit those to Sam. We'll gather those up. But do me a favor and don't ask me, does this make sense? Because we're talking about the federal government and originally HUD particularly. So a lot of it doesn't make sense. Some of it does kind of. But they want to be certain that the customer actually has this information, and then they can choose to not take it. And we'll talk about later what we do when we disclose something that the customer chooses not to take. So up front, they're going to tell you everything that might possibly be involved in this transaction. Loan amount. Got to know the loan amount because a lot of fees are based on this, such as origination fees and your title insurance. So I need to know what the loan amount is. Got to gather all this information. I need a property address and description because the good faith estimate does specifically address whether or not the locality. So a loan that is based on a dwelling that's in a rural area might be very different from one that's based on a property that is a condo in New York City. And so it's very important that we know these. And I'll give you an example here where one of my clients recently, I don't name names, but one of my clients recently, they went way out of their territory. We primarily stay in Texas, so this was a Texas-based bank, and they were lending on a condo in New York City. What the bank was not aware of early enough is whether or not there were transfer fees, that there were some fees that were always charged in that particular area for that particular type of transaction. And so not knowing that caused some problems. Ignorance is not a changed circumstance, so just remember that. It has to be something that really was a changed circumstance, something that maybe this was a fee that popped up that happened after. So we'll go into those a little more. All right, so I've got to have a property address and a description. And a description also helps me to know whether or not this is a manufactured home with land, if this is a construction loan, if it's single family, if it's multifamily. These help out a lot. We need to know about the term, and here we're talking about the maturity. And what we're looking for here is, since remember now we're doing RESPA, we're not doing Reg Z. I'll allude to that just a few times, but we'll just mention a few things that have to do with Reg Z, but this isn't a Reg Z review. We need to know, for the purposes of doing this RESPA, good faith, and HUD-1, is that I need to know whether or not potentially an escrow was required. Now, I'll see if there's an escrow on there, but I also need to know then if one is required, and if it's required, there's certain things that I need to have. And so that could be everything from the flood insurance, obviously. Then if it's in a flood hazard area, then I need to see that there's flood insurance on the good faith and the HUD-1. And I'll need to see if there really is an escrow that's required. So here I'm going to look because I need to know if I'm going to do this test calculation on the rates. I need to know what the maturity is. Obviously, I need to know the interest rate. Interest rate is going to drive a good number of things, so I need to know what that interest rate, besides it's got to be on the good faith. And then I also need the information that's remaining on the summary of your loan info. So it's going to have information such as whether or not there's going to be a prepayment penalty, whether or not there's a balloon on there, balloon payment. So that information, I need to have all of that to verify the summary of your loan. I also need to obviously verify the escrow. So whether or not there's an escrow, I need to see the amounts, need to see what those totals are. The adjusted origination charges, those are things that I have to have, and we'll go into some detail about what is in there and what we need. Now, there's always a confusion between the origination charges for RESPA and origination fees for Reg Z. There are things that are included in the origination charge for RESPA that are not considered origination fees or prepaid finance charges under Reg Z. And that's specifically addressed when I have this ready. I will give you that. Otherwise, I'll give it to you in writing after the Q&As if you have a specific question about where in the world did you get that. This is specifically, it says if a fee is in our origination charge, is that fee automatically a prepaid finance charge for Reg Z purposes? And the answer, according to HUD, is no. And that comes from answer number 10, page 28, from GFE Block 1. And so that is in the HUD FAQs dated April 2nd, 2010. And so, no, they specifically state that prepaid finance charges are defined by Reg Z. These are origination charges under RESPA. So there's some things there that will not ordinarily be, such as doc prep fees. Doc preparation fees are charged and logged under, recorded under 801. Excuse me. 801 is part of our origination charges under RESPA, but that is not considered a prepaid finance charge under Reg Z. So we need to know what all is going in there so we know whether or not it's correct. So when I see a lump, and this is where it gets a little interesting, there's a lump for RESPA and it says, nope, don't break it out. There's a few times you do break out, but otherwise there's no detail. Well, for me to do the audit, I have to know what the detail is because I have to know if everything's there and what's being recorded where. So I have to ask for that information. So for those of you who are on the prep side, make certain that you're detailing that somewhere so you don't have to go back and recreate the wheel. Most of you have that. Occasionally I've run into clients that do not have that data. Somebody has it in their head. Not a good place to be.